with the person that I'm scening with. Now, if it's not someone that I've known a long time or that I've ever met before, maybe I'm at a dungeon party or at a club and meet someone and we're like, well, you want to go back to one of the rooms and try this, and this. Well, obviously it's not going to be the same level of intimacy, but there is an intimacy that develops while you're sitting there negotiating the scene and talking about, okay, this is exactly what I want to take place, or things of that nature, getting into the nitty-gritty of it. And then the trust that has to be developed. That's very important to make sure that the trust is there, because if you're scening with someone and concerned that they may abuse you or you may go too far, then it's obviously your head is not going to be in it. So the psychology there that is required to allow these endorphins to start to flow and allow you to reach that cathartic state of Dom space or subspace just will not take place. And finally, confidence, flow, and presence. Just being confident in what is taking place, because you have your rituals and you have the intimacy and trust. If you will notice, this is building on top of each other. You have to start with the first, go to the second, third. And I said finally for this one, for the confidence, flow, and presence. But there is a fourth, and that is flexibility and relaxation. You've discussed your hard limits, your soft limits, and remaining flexible. I may go into a scene knowing exactly what I'm going to do, how long I'm going to do it, how I'm going to treat them, but I can't always stick with that. In fact, I almost never stick with that, because their reactions to it is going to change things. So you have to remain flexible. A dom's job is not to be incredibly rigid, not as, where it's this is exactly what's going to happen when it's going to happen. I watched a documentary on YouTube about this British dom, and he had some guy coming over, a paying client, and he's preparing this cross for him to shackle him to it, and it was the last time he was going to see him, and ended up using his entire hand, wrist, and arm on the guy. And then it shows them cleaning him up, and it didn't show the actual act of it, but it showed the aftermath with waste and being cleaned up. But the guy's talking about, oh, the submissive is coming over and he doesn't know that this is going to take place, and he doesn't really consent to it, but he doesn't care because it's what the dominant wants to do, and it's the last time that he's going to see the guy. And no, that is straight up abuse. And even if it wasn't a soft or a hard limit, and the person didn't really, say that was okay for that day, then that could be a problem. You have to remain flexible, and you have to just relax into it and let it flow. I think the most awkward time is with new submissives in a DS relationship, and those first few scenes, and trying to relax into it. Not so much for just a top and a bottom scene, but a DS scene. And then for all the newbies just getting into it, there's almost a brick wall there when it comes to being flexible and learning how to relax into it. But you'll get there. Just make sure that you're reminding yourself that, yes, this is how I want it to go, but in the moment, things can change. And as long as you stay within those limits, then that change should be okay. And if it's not, that's what safe words are for. And then as it changes, you kind of make a mental note of it, you move on with it, you remain flexible, and then you have the aftercare, and then comes the check-in, and that's where that is discussed. Again, just to run over that list, don't focus on it. Remember your rituals. You have to develop that intimacy and trust, and that's not just with the other person. Also, you have to remember, you have to develop that within yourself, which presents as confidence, and then you've got the flow and the presence of mind, the flexibility, and the relaxation. So I'm grouping Dom space and subspace together, but it is different in how it feels. It's different in how it comes about. Obviously, the submissive or the bottom is receiving theirs from one side and the dominant or top from the other. So what exactly would the difference be? Well, Dom space actually is not near as obtainable, and due to the need of the Dom to stay in control and not violate any limits. Yes, it is also a sub's responsibility to make sure that they call a safe word when needed, but it is definitely more the Dom's responsibility to make sure that they don't violate one of those limits to begin with, and to check in during the scene, ask, like using the red light system, asking what color they're at for a check-in. Green. Okay, then continue doing what you're doing. Give them more. Yellow. If someone says yellow, then I ask, what else is it? Because there's always more to yellow. Is it, do you need a break? Are you too uncomfortable the way that you're positioned or shackled that you can't enjoy the activity? So I always ask, explain, or command to explain. That's the main difference. And then the feeling of it, of course, as I said before, the subspace is a lot more intense. Some dominants claim that they don't reach Dom space. I'm not so sure about that. For some reason, it seems to be something that a lot of people don't want to admit to. Next topic, Dom and sub drop. It's a feeling of emptiness or depression after a scene ends and the chemicals and emotions are returning to normal. Now, it doesn't sound really bad, but it can be a horrific experience for some people. I know some who won't participate in a scene. They've stepped back from BDSM altogether because their drops were so great. And one person I knew years ago, 20 years ago, that was a great supporter of the community but never got involved, always showed up at parties, never participated in a scene, never said anything about being a top, a bottom, a dom, a sub, nothing. And come to find out, it was because he experienced sub drop so incredibly bad that he just could not handle it, and found out a few years after I had stopped going to that same social setting that he was in. I saw him out somewhere at a restaurant, and it said that he had got back into it because he had gone to therapy and found out that there was a whole lot more going on there, and he was trying to use BDSM as therapy, and that's a no-no. That is not what it is for. So if your depression comes and it is that intense, chances are there is something else there. So look out for that. But for a submissive, it's usually something that occurs very quick to follow the scene. But with a dom, it can sometimes take a week or more for it to show up. With me, it's 3 days. And it's almost like clockwork every single time. You have this scene, you really into it, things go well, and then you're feeling this sense of authority and power, and you've done everything right And both participants, or all the participants, if there's more than two people involved, get out of it exactly what they want, and you've done your domly duties or your duties as a top, and you're feeling really good. And then all of a sudden, all this power and authority and control and love and respect that was involved is just not there, and you're slammed back into the real world where you have a boss or multiple bosses, all of them telling you different things, and they all contradict, and you don't know who to follow, so no matter what you do or say is going to be correct. And then you got idiots trying to kill you out on the highway, or, driving half a mile down to the corner gas station to pick up milk because you forgot to get it on the way home because you were frustrated from the idiots from the highway, and, just on and on and on. And I don't care who you are, unless you're a complete narcissist. These types of things are going to create a feeling of loss of power, loss of control, and you're coming from such a place where it existed to not having that. And it's just, it hits hard for some people, and just some doms there again won't admit that they experience it, but I think nearly everyone experiences it at least mildly. For me, sometimes it's quite severe, other times not so much. It just really depends on the scene and the participants. So, something to look out for. With submissives and bottoms, like I said, that typically happens really quick following the scene when they enter into a sub drop. It can take some time for some people, but most of the people that I've spoke to, it's something that will hit pretty quick and can hit pretty hard as well. But that is the importance of aftercare, which brings us to the next topic. So, what is aftercare? Pretty much, it is the negotiated time after a scene or playtime, just where you recover and you take care of each other's needs. It's also a time to kind of reconnect to reality and reestablish roles outside of the scene. Some scenes are very intense, emotionally, psychologically, and the dominant may need to help with the submissive or the bottom to rewind and recover. And dominants also need aftercare. And this goes for both or all four: tops, bottoms, doms, subs. Some people like a massage or sex, talking, cuddling, listening to music, sitting quietly, just facing each other and kind of coming down from everything that's taken place. Everybody has their own personal requirements for aftercare. And that is one of the things, probably that is the most forgotten thing with newer people, because they're so pumped up, so excited to get into performing or participating in these scenes. And then it's over and there's afterglow, but there's no bringing you back into quote unquote reality. So aftercare is extremely, extremely important. Aftercare and check-ins are more important than actually the scene, because if you don't have the check-ins, if you don't have the aftercare, I promise you, you're not going to be scening with that person for an extended period of time, because things are going to start going wrong. You're going to enter these depressive states and bicker back and forth or argue back and forth. And it's not healthy. And that is absolutely part of keeping things safe, sane, consensual, and informed. So, aftercare and check-in. And also, one of the things that a lot of people don't think about, but rehydration and rest, that's also very important. You can burn up a lot of calories, sweat a lot, and your mind doesn't work well when you're dehydrated. And if you pay attention to it, you can tell a major difference. So that's something that